Well, yes, we had known all along that there was going to be some type of deadline, 130 days, and that was something that we had reporting about from the jump. You know, the president has said we would like to keep him for as long as we can, but we do know that there are some restrictions that do come with being a special government employee, and of course he does have several other businesses, but we are told that his work and his, I guess you could say, legacy, the impact will continue beyond him in the sense that he has a team and that he has been working with different people within the cabinet, and they are hoping to continue with a lot of that cost-cutting work.
Yeah, Beth, come on in here, because we did learn last week, and Tesla shareholders certainly cheered this news, that Elon would be spending more time away from Washington, D.C., but as Hadriana just said, the wheels are in motion when it comes to Doge. How should Americans think about the impact and potential impact moving forward of cutting at the behest of Doge?
Well, I think what you just said is really important, that he is going back to his Tesla world, because shares in Tesla have cratered since Elon Musk has been part of Doge. I think he really has to wonder whether this was worth it for him and frankly, worth it for the president and for the American people. Certainly, there were cuts that were made. I don't disagree that the U.S. government is being remade in a way that probably will never be the same as a result of President Trump's first 100 days, and certainly Elon Musk's efforts at Doge. But the efforts were very scattershot. They were really sort of throwing a grenade into the government rather than surgically cutting and finding the actual evidence of waste and attacking that specifically. He just sort of went after different departments, different agencies, willy-nilly. A lot of lawsuits have resulted, a lot of lawsuits that will and have been successful against some of these cuts. We may even find that Doge is saving no money because there is so much cost to reappointing employees who've unfairly lost their jobs and that the courts have allowed to come back. So it's very unclear that what Elon Musk set out to do and what President Trump asked him to do is actually going to bear the kind of economic windfall that had been predicted. Meanwhile, Elon Musk's own businesses have been really tanking, and he is essentially going back to save them.
You know, Beth, I wonder what's more important, determining whether or not he has had, the president that is, successes or failures in the first 100 days, or whether or not we look at the first 100 days as an indicator of what's to come in the next 3.5 or more than 3.5 years of what's left in the Trump White House.
Well, look, most of the success of a presidential administration really is in the early part of the administration, when the president typically has the highest job approval. Congress is more than willing, especially a Congress like this, a fully Republican, the president's own party, willing to let the president's agenda take precedence. It typically slows down after the early days of the first part of the administration. President Trump, as we've all discussed, has done more than probably any other president in 100 days to make his mark. The question is, how long is that going to last? Much of it's being challenged in court. We've seen poll after poll after poll showing President Trump is losing popularity quickly, that many of the things that he has undertaken in this first 100 days have been met by skepticism and frankly, fear by a lot of Americans. So it's unclear whether he's going to be able to keep this up for much longer.
Oh, that's a really good point. We talked a little bit about political capital earlier this week with Jordan Fabian, about what the president has and he can spend when it comes to Congress. Hadriana, come back in here and just give us, as we do reflect on these first 100 days, give us what you see as some of the successes, some of the wins, but also areas where the president really has not succeeded, some of those losses in the first 100 days.
Absolutely. And as someone, I covered him very closely on the campaign trail, and I think that there are some things that he said he would do that he has headed in that direction of. The border is the first thing that comes to mind, and that was something where even when I was talking to people and voters, it was often ranked above the economy for them, whether they were in Iowa or they were in Phoenix. And so this was something where we can see the border crossings have gone down. On the deportation front, those numbers appear to have also gone down. And so, has he hit the millions and millions of numbers that he's touted? That has not yet happened, but his administration has pointed to the border crossings as an area of success. And then, as we all know, the tariffs were something that he has said he would do on the campaign trail, and he has done them in a sense that, he has put in some of those tariffs and he's flip-flopped and taken some back. He's offered pauses for some exemptions, and really that's offered a lot of confusion for the markets, as we all know. And more importantly, then the question is, what does that mean going forward? Does that suggest to other industries that they can come in and have meetings, and then they can get some of the same reductions that people just recently in the auto industry received, and that was announced yesterday. So we're still navigating exactly what that tariff policy will look like, and that's something, whereas we saw in the latest economic data, that has not worked out well for him, and he has now claimed that to be Biden's fault as opposed to his own. And we had actually done reporting from the jump on the different economic messaging coming from the admin. At what point can he say that the economy was truly his versus his predecessor? And it has seemed that when the data is good, he says it's his. When it's bad, he blames his predecessor.
It's something we just talked about with our own Mike McKee, and companies, ordering ahead of expected tariffs. That, as Mike said, that ultimately is President Trump's economy, that buying ahead in anticipation of higher costs. Beth, when you advise your firm's clients on policy and messaging around White House moves and actions, I am curious what's top of mind, and is there an expectation that things will settle down in a bit, or not necessarily?
Sure. Well, we advise a lot of different types of clients, and of course, many of them are concerned about the impact of tariffs on their consumers, on their customers. The issue of DEI, of course, is a major factor for a lot of companies in the United States. There was an effort to really push DEI and embrace the ethos of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Just in the last few years. That, of course, has changed under the Trump administration, and many companies are trying to figure out how to embrace the value that they place on diversity, while not sort of advertising that this is something that's important to them as a company, for fear of retribution from the administration. There's a lot of fear out there generally, I would say. It's a very different atmosphere than we've seen under other presidencies, where you might like the president or not, or approve of his policies or not. The sense of fear of not knowing what's coming and trying to prepare, but not ever 100% sure of what you're preparing for, leaves a lot of consumers, a lot of companies off balance.